to galacticconnection.com, one of the most popular blogs on the World Wide Web today for alternative news. Stay tuned for the latest information on our world shift from enslavement to galactic involvement, as well as current intel on any blockages impeding us from our sovereign birthright. Knowledge and self-mastery are key at this time. Our commitment is to present you with the latest breaking conspiratorial articles, off-world messages, exopolitics, cutting-edge technologies and sciences, and also an ever-significant intertwining of spiritual support and metaphysical scope that one needs to dive down the rabbit hole in search for truth with balance. We are truly on the horizon of a new golden age filled with the promise for more love, worldwide peace, and accelerated intuitive skills, where every living being can exist in cohesion and abundance. It is whatever we envision and dream this new world to be. I say to you now, let's redefine the new world to the beginnings of our own precious heaven on earth. Galactic Connection is here to provide the pulse of Mother Earth through an eclectic range of interviews each Tuesday afternoon from 3 to 4:55 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, Station 2 on BBS Radio, expanding your perspectives on how we can once and for all take back our freedoms, our joy, and our connection with our mighty I Am presence. Our intention remains true to connect hearts and minds everywhere in order to obtain global unity and galactic and universal acceptance. Our discussions will continue to cover anything to do with galactic society and our involvement with our galactic brothers and sisters. Our guests are experts in their fields, and our radio shows have been coined as some of the most thought-provoking out there. In addition to our daily blog, which runs 365 days a year, we also offer a realm of healing services such as our world-renowned implant removal processes, our spiritual past life clearings, our galactic violet ray alchemy from Alexandra, who shares in the lineage of Merlin, and other cutting-edge healing technologies. Check our site out at galacticconnection.com now, sending you a wave of light, love, and inspiration, and a personal hug and thank you for listening to our Galactic Connection radio show and visiting our blog today. Good afternoon, everybody. This is Alexandra Metters of galacticconnection.com, and today is Tuesday, November 12th, 2013. I have, by popular demand, invited Jill Mattson back. And Jill has a very fascinating background. She's an author, a composer, an artist, a musician. My gosh, she just goes on and on. She's in a very, very great place with the emerging field of sound healing. She's written 4 books and produced 6 CDs on everything from techniques in sound healing to frequencies and special healing processes and benefits to the body. I mean, I could go on and on. And anyway, today we have a very special conversation we're going to review regarding musical astrology and the sounds of the planets and the sun and the galaxy. I think that's something that's really juicy, Jill, that everybody really has a lot of interest in. So welcome, Jill. Thank you for coming on to my show.
Thank you for having me so much.
You are welcome so much. And Jill is very busy. She's just about to go out on a speaking circuit, and she will be discussing all sorts of things regarding her celestial music. I love that. Can you tell us a little bit, Jill, about the different types of things that you intermix in your music before we dive into the musical astrology?
Sure. I've been a musician since I'm 5 years old, and it has dawned on me maybe about 20 years ago that someone comes into the back sometimes when I play, and so I know I'm getting inspirited. When that happens, I always perform so much better than I would without that help. And it's just kind of funny because I always make sure I go to the bathroom first because it puts pressure on my bladder. So I know it's going on. But anyway, so I get help from Spirit for performance. I also get help from Spirit for writing music. Sometimes I just hear it. One time, I believe it was Joseph Haydn came in and conducted a symphony, and I got to hear it with not with my regular ears. And so some of my music, I just feel like it's cosmic plagiarism. I'm writing down this beautiful stuff that I received. And when I look at the classical composers of the Renaissance, they also heard music. So I believe that musical patterns are, in musical songs, are given to humanity at the right time to influence and to evolve us along our journey. And so I'm just grateful to be one of the many to receive music, to write it, and then perform it. And I usually perform not all, but most all of the parts. And then I spent like 25 years studying ancient societies and all the secret mystery schools. And I did that for personal reasons, for a spiritual quest. And then as I did that, I found that, it was like, eureka! These societies were using sound and music to grow their crops, which now you can do. You can get broadcasts for your crops from the work of Rudolf Steiner, for example.
Yeah, that's brilliant.
And then, there's all kinds of things. They used it for health. They used it like an elevator to become more psychic and more spiritual. They used it to get on the fast track for their spiritual growth. They used it for little things like regrowing the toe that might have been chopped off, just lifting heavy objects, all kinds of fascinating things. And I just then devoted my life to bringing back this ancient wonder. It's a way of looking at the world, thinking that everything's just a vibration, and then learning science, simple stuff from sound and music, because you can hear it and you can observe it, you can measure it, and you can see how waves work, and then applying that to everything. And that's it in a nutshell. And through my books and my music, and then in my music, I receive the music. I am inspired to do the music. I guess I'm saying the same thing. Perform it. And then I've taken these ancient customs that they used with different sounds or sound matrix patterns, and using it to influence your aura and your mind, body, soul, to just kind of like take you right up. And I do that in all of them, but the one that would be of most interest for tonight would be the Stardust CD, in which, on top of beautiful music with physics, I've calculated the frequencies that a planet has in its orbit. And it does make a wave. It's not in our hearing range, but it can easily be converted so. And so the literal sounds of the stars are twinkling in the background, an ancient custom.
Wow.
And then I also put in like sub-sounds, just as like we have like an aura color, a lifetime aura color. And then each day, really here and there, and so your aura colors are going to change, smaller segments. It's the same thing with a planet. It has an overall tone, and then it has other little subtones. And that would be its elements, like carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, or nitrogen. And the frequencies associated with those, they're also twinkling in there. So you listen to the heavenly music, and then the stars literally are toning you and lifting you to be, as above, so below, to be heavenly, to be one with your star family, to rise above.
I found it really fascinating when I was looking at what you put into your music. I mean, first of all, the fact that you do every component within the music is amazing to me. How long does it take you to make a CD?
At least a year, and that's working 40, 60 hours a week.
Yeah, no kidding. I mean, I come from a long line of musicians, and I know how much work goes into it. So I commend you for that. You're providing an amazing service to humanity. I mean, if people really realized what goes into music, and that's one of the reasons I was so drawn to you. I think the other thing that people need to be aware of is what else goes into it from the standpoint of you're working with solfeggios, you're working with the Fibonacci tones, you're working with binaural beats. These are all hot things out there on the internet, right?
Mm-hmm, absolutely. So I'm using tonal patterns and matrices to lift your energy up. I'm clearing out negative energy in the healing flowers. and building in positive energy. And if you do it with repeats, it makes a virtue. That's the real power of music, is that we really have to put our will to change ourselves and spend lots of time doing our spiritual discipline. But with music, I mean, you can have it on the background when you're doing the dishes or driving the car or sleeping, and you can actually advance like that. I mean, how easy and how accessible is music, and it's beautiful.
Wow, that's awesome.
What a package.
I know.
Yeah.
Well, so
Inexpensive.
I thought, since obviously the name of my website is Galactic Connection, and I'm all about galactic anything, I thought it would I thought it'd be interesting to go over a lot more about how the planets, how do they produce sound, and who originally discovered that? That would be like my very first question.
Okie dokie, I could do that. So it's really two. Who tell you the ancient stuff, and then I'll tell you how science measures the sound of the stars.
Great.
Does that sound good?
That sounds awesome.
Okay. Well, the music of the spheres is about as ancient as history gets. The earlier you go back, if you get into these little small niche, very evolved civilizations, they're all using musical astrology. They're all aware that these subtle frequencies, which we can now buy off a Motorola for $9.99, that come in from the movement of the stars, that they influence our mind, body, soul. And the real early ones, they would notice things like Venus in 8 years, it stands still at 5 times, and it traces a perfect pentagon.
Wow.
And the pentagon was very important. Sacred geometry, sacred energy. And again, so as above, so below. So that when they mock the pentagon on Earth, they're mocking the patterns of Venus.
Wow.
Mercury, does a 6-pointed star with 2 conjuncts in the evening and morning stars. And so they're looking at the patterns of the stars. And then here's another old one. This is from the Egyptians. And I'm so excited about this. I think this is so cool. The Egyptians would tone the sounds of the planets. They had 7 known at that time. And they also got into, as I said earlier, observing sound and applying it to everything. So you would observe how a wave works and, let's say, apply it to string theory to understand the universe. They were doing things like that. And the thing about making not just pitches, but they also came up with vowel sounds for each of these 7 known planets. And the thing about a vowel sound is that if you photograph them, which was first done in the 50s by Clarence Darrell Miller, anyway, if you photograph them, they look like banister posts. They're different shapes. And that's because the after vibration has different amounts of energy in different pitches, or there's different frequencies of like an after vibe for a different vowel, like A, E. Sounds like the E's higher, but I said the same pitch. E flew in more energy in the higher after vibe. That's why it sounded higher. So the big secret in Egypt, the big secret, was that they would tone the pitches and the vowels for the 7 known planets to enable the pharaoh to enter the next life, to ascend, and where he would then look over their country and take care of them from the spirit world. And you'll find this practice, and I can even give you it. It's this practice that's in Egypt. It's also in every major mystery school.
Wow.
Theosophy. It's in the ancient Chinese. Rosicrucian. They all have some type of fast track using vibrations, kind of like a jackhammer, to accelerate their ascension and growth for enlightenment. And there might be different variations, but they're all fairly close. They're simply the vowel sounds. And Venus is associated with the Egyptians with Ah, Mercury, E, Moon, I, Mars, Saturn, Jupiter, Sun,
And isn't this kind of a play off of the Sound of Music when they did the Do Re Mi Fa Sol La Te, which is completely wrong?
Well, actually, no, really, it's not. It's more like rather than giving you like a little jingle to memorize the names of the note of a scale, they're just using combinations of vowel sounds, or said differently, combinations of harmonics to take and rise the body up.
Interesting.
Like Helen Blavatsky did, and the Hebrews did it. Yahweh, Yahweh, Yahweh.
Wow.
There's all your vowels.
Wow. Okay. Wow, I never thought of it that way. That's fascinating.
Yeah, and that's what the Egyptians, they're using this plus the tones, like I have in my CD, and they are using it for their pharaoh, for their ascension. I just thought that was kind of cool.
That is. So this goes way, way back. I mean, you're talking from the very, very beginning. Sound was the crucial element in everything from construction, even, right? Because we know it was the key ingredient in building the huge pyramids.
And they even draw pictures of like spaceships and talk about getting this information from brothers from the stars. Because it's amazing how accurate it is that they would have gotten it. But then carrying on, to finish your question, later on, Kepler, he was a scientist in the 1600s. He went and figured the angles in the furthest, when it's furthest away from the sun and closest to the sun, the ratios of each planet. And he found that they created ratios that were the same as a musical scale. And he offered that is there's sense, there's harmony, there's reason why we like the scale we do. It's in the stars, and it comes down in these little tiny vibrations, and it influences our brain waves. I mean, how cool is that?
Wow. Well, and speaking of brain waves, I really wanted to ask you about this. I was floored when I read you were talking about Kepler's diatonic musical scales and reducing it mathematically to octaves. And you were saying that it corresponds to the brainwave patterns of alpha, beta, theta, and delta. Can you talk a little bit about that? That is amazing.
Well, it's just really simple. What an octave is, for those people who aren't musicians, it's the same note, bum, bum, just higher or lower. And when you look at the cycles per second, let's say 100 is the higher note. If you half it in cycles per second, take it to 50 cycles per second, you get the lower octave. Same note, and energy transfers between octaves. So if you had two violins and you play an A string on one, the A on the other goes off. Just think of a gerbil tunnel. Energy transfers through octaves. So when you have a sound created in the universe, making a tone, it lowers, and you keep lowering it by just dividing it by 2. You get the lower and lower note. Then you can look at the frequencies of it and then just put it right next to your brainwave pattern and see how it stacks up.
Whoa. Oh my God, that is amazing. So how does frequency differ from intensity of the sound? Like how are they related?
Interesting, very interesting. And you came up with a very great question, so no surprise. Okay. The work of Robert Becker and Fritz Alan Popp, they're physicists, they both showed that some of the most impactual frequencies in the human body, the ones that give the most bang for their punch, are little tiny geomagnetic frequencies. Ones coming from ley lines or energy in the earth, or ones coming from the planets. And the reason why is that they say normal sounds are louder, like you and I speaking, primarily goes all over your body, but a lot of it goes into your ear. And the ear transfers it like digital, like it's on the nervous system. Think of the nervous system like the internet. It averages things, and bam, it's got a lot of information, zippity-doo-dah on its way real quick. Whereas, if something is just very, very subtle and soft, Then it goes on the cell-to-cell transfer, or the tissues surrounding the nerves. And it goes slow, complete, and it's perfect. And it gets the actual full harmonic pattern.
Wow.
And according to Becker, he says that those are the ones that influence your consciousness,
Oh, my.
your mind, body, soul. So he says they're the most powerful because they're in an analog waveform. They're totally accurate. They're the perfect picture.
Wow.
And so in my CDs, when I'm using my matrix, I just have them made little tiny tuning forks. So they're just maybe like wind chimes slightly going in the background, very subtle.
Wow. And so, of course, this is such a key indication of how we're being, unfortunately, manipulated by some of the EMFs, right? Because they're so subtle, they're in the background.
Easy to do.
Yeah, yeah.
It's so easy to do. And we need to wake up people so they start to pay attention to the frequencies. You wouldn't go into a hospital and just pick up random medicines and down them. But yet we do the same thing with sounds. We ingest sounds, period. They become part of our body.
God, I like that. Man, that should become a bumper sticker.
Yes, it should.
To wake people
pay
up.
attention.
Yeah.
I mean, sound's not either good or bad. It's nothing. It's how it's intended and how it's used. You can use it to kill. You can use it for elevation and ascension, enlightenment.
Wow.
So what choices are we making? Oh, and actually, I didn't quite finish. We were talking about sound in ancient times, and since you're a musician, I know you'll love this one too. In 1776, so some of this stuff is getting more modern now. Johann Titus, he observed that if you put Mercury in the center of our solar system, just kind of rearranged it or considered it the center, everything's an octave apart, and so you can see that there's sacred geometry in the skies, and there's music in the skies. And phi, which P-H-I,
right.
sounds like five, but phi, which is which is found in your five-pointed pentacle. It's like it's in my Paint Your Soul CD. It's the sound that causes the curving patterns in nature. But anyway, it's very sacred in ancient times. And if you go into a planet's orbit and calculate its distance between the planets, the ratio between the distance between the planets and the average distance between the planets, every single one of them is going to equal phi. Again, it's showing sacred geometry, and of course phi is heavy. Used to be, it is no longer, but used to be, a staple of music.
Nothing
to tune people to the heavens and to nature.
I was going to say nothing like a perfect representation of our world in divine order.
Absolutely, that was what music was, say, 300 years ago.
That's amazing. Wow.
And notice, when we stopped using these perfect representations, we disconnected to heaven and earth. And the Industrial Revolution came and we plundered earth. We couldn't, we were no longer connected to sense what we were doing.
Every time I interview you, I just am floored by the information you've uncovered. It's just amazing. Now, do me a favor, clarify for me, go back for a minute. You talked about analog, and there was something I think I remember reading about the analog system is crucial for the central nervous system. Why is that?
Well, the analog system is an accurate representation of sound. Think of analog in terms of a visual thing. Like if you have an old-fashioned film and you expose the light to it, you get every little gradation of light. If you switch over to a digital camera, it's averaged and you get little dots that represent areas. And it's the exact same thing in sound. So not only is your digital sound incomplete, but sound has harmonic patterns, and your body operates on harmonic patterns. The ancient wisdom is just begging to put our medicine upside down, because there's so much more we can discover and heal once we realize that everything in your body also is a wave and operates according to how sound works. And sound creates like after ripples that are called harmonics. And so the harmonic pattern is how our body runs. And digital sound gives you distorted harmonics because the sound is incomplete.
So is it actually missing, or is it misrepresenting because it's kind of an average?
It's just an average.
It's just an average. Interesting.
Yeah.
So if through the eyes of a musician such as yourself, how would you define dis-ease?
Through
a musician's
We're out of
eye.
tune. We're out of
Out
tune.
of tune. Oh, I love it. I love it.
Yeah, we're out of tune. And dis-ease, where we have our uncomfort makes us perhaps flat, musically flat. And when we get stressed, we get musically sharp.
Wow. Oh my gosh.
And you have to see with your alchemy then how like something was made with blues, again, if somebody is sharp and you want to use a some type of herbal something, if it's made from blues or something made that is a blue color, it's going to be sedating, it's going to take them down. Whereas the red and the orange would enliven and be energetic. It's kind of how like frequency and color and music, they're overlays of the same thing.
You're also showing me that sound is like the core glue of all that is to be researched on this planet.
I believe so. Ancient people believed so.
Yeah. Just everything from science to quantum physics to healing to medicine to whatever. I mean, sound it seems to be the perfect panacea.
Right, because it's not really just sound. You're learning the laws of waves, and everything's a wave.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, so now when you were talking about the planets, can you kind of go back into each of the planets and what kind of energies they carry?
I sure can. But first of all, I know one thing I did want to do that we got off topic was I did want to say that many astrophysicists refer to the planets as instruments, like the smaller ones as flutes, medium ones trombones, big ones tubas, and there's gaseous waves going up and down, and they're also in an orbit. So each little dot in the sky is a little world of frequencies. And so they have been measured, and in fact, they're used to determine the composition and the size of a star. Okay, so now as far as some of the things that the stars do, well, the easy ones would be like Venus. I know I have a little, I'm just looking through my materials, right? I'm just looking for a little chart. But Venus, of course, is love energy. Mars is your kind of warrior energy. Neptune is kind of your dreamy energy. And let me see, Mercury is energy of communication. And I'm looking.
And I know Pluto is transformation and change, right?
Yes, exactly. Okay, found it. The sun tone is strength, motivation, vitality, radiance. The moon, emotional softness, intuition. Earth, security, safety, sound of Om.
Interesting.
We already did Mercury, Venus, Mars. Jupiter would be openness, trust, optimism, good fortune. Saturn is developing discipline and setting limits, being responsible. Uranus is flexible for life change, inspiration, freedom of expression. Neptune, it supports a dream life, artistic nature. And Pluto helps us face our secrets and our deepest fears.
Interesting.
And one thing that was, one of the interesting things about the ancient people was that they would listen to the sounds of the stars because those energies are going to come in, and they would try to harmonize with them by listening to them, especially while listening to really pretty music or nature. Then you get in a really good spot and you harmonize with the different tones, and that helps you handle your astrology, because if you can harmonize the dissonance, then the dissonance that you see mentally, emotionally, and physically dissipates. And there's many, many ways of doing it. Like Ted Andrews, he would just notice, like, if the stars aligned in a straight way, in a straight line, he'd just add them up and play them all at once. Now, when you play them all at once, they could sound great or they could sound really rotten. And let's say, and of course, if they sound great, then this horoscope is always fabulous. They sound rotten. Guess what? Guess what's coming your way?
Yeah.
So this is what he did. Like, you know, because you're a musician, so you know that a musical second, just two notes real close together, really sounds rotten.
Yeah.
And so let's say that's your horoscope. So you're in for it. What Ted Andrews would do is he would just add other notes and like make it bum, 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 and then make it like a seventh chord. So it's like a creamy, he would add other notes. And all of a sudden that dissonance becomes like a creamy vanilla.
Nice.
Really nice.
Nice.
And then he undoes your challenges.
God, that's brilliant. That is brilliant. You know, it sounds a lot like I trained with a Hermetic teacher for several years, and he told me, he says, you know, I know people that have come to me and presented me with their astral charts, and they've had just miserable lives because their astral charts had some very, very challenging aspects. And he says, but that too can be overcome. That can be transitioned and tweaked, and this is probably one of the perfect ways to do so.
Yeah, and even Kepler, now he's back in the 1600s. What he did was he would notice like a trine, which I guess is a really good energy. So when you look at the angles on a trine, you get the ratio of 3 to 2, or 360 degrees over 240. Well, the ratio of a 3 to 2 corresponds to the musical interval of a fifth, which is the most perfect, creamy, yummy sound. And so you can see that a trine is the most beautiful sound that we know of. Whereas when you have a square and then you look at the ratios, I mean, it sounds terrible, and that's your opposition. So even, you know, way back they were doing these kind of things. And there's another new guy. This is really cool. People ought to go to LinkedIn, to Don Adams. Well, it used to be Sound of the Stars, but it's something like that. Anyway, it's close to Sound of the Stars. And he also has one on Yahoo Groups, Sound of the Stars. And what he does is he looks at really desirable configurations in space, like you're going to meet the love of your life, or you're going to get rich, or whatever it is you want. And then he analyzes the angles and the pitches created by the stars. And he kind of does what I did in my Stardust CD, is he has the overall tones, and then he gets into like spin and angles and different subcomponents. And then for like, you know, a small fee, you buy the track and you listen to the positive astrology. And he's got hundreds.
I think I've heard of him. I think I've blogged him a couple of times. He's a really interesting guy.
Yeah.
Don Adams, yeah. Wow, that is just so cool. Now, how do they determine the note of the planet? How do they measure that?
Okay. Well, there's several ways. Perhaps the most common one is the one used by Cousteau, developed by Hans Cousteau. And he just uses a formula from physics, and that's frequency equals 1 over the time of rotation. And Barbara Hero, she has a site called, it's lambdona.com, and she does a lot of the sounds of the stars. She uses a different formula from physics. She uses frequency equals velocity, that is the speed of the air through, speed of sound through air. I think that's like a constant, 130 feet per second, divided by the wavelength. And anyway, both of these people then come up with the frequencies, and for our audience, we could even list, you know, what's the musical tone for each sign. And so, so you can get the musical tone for the sign and the musical tone for the planet.
God, that's a great idea. I think people would love that, because I've looked into this and I got very, very frustrated because there were so many different opinions on what note was affiliated with each planet.
Well, what I have here is I have just taken the frequencies light down octaves, like we said before, to find its musical note, and then I'm using some of the ancient stuff and some of the physics stuff, and so I'll just share with you.
Yeah,
okay,
please.
For Aries, red. Musical note is C. It's all about self-power, direction, leadership. It's about health-wise, thick muscles, heart, growth, circulation. Red-orange is Taurus at a C sharp. Champion of justice, you're hard on yourself, you're stubborn. Physical issues would be circulation, digestion, and bowels. And I just don't want to read this whole list because that would be boring.
Right.
Maybe people could email me and I could send it to them.
Okay.
But anyway, Jill I. Mattson, Mattson, at yahoo.com. D would be orange or Gemini. D sharp would be orange-yellow, Cancer. E would be yellow or Leo. Yellow-green, wait a minute, I got this wrong. Let me try. Okay, D is orange or Gemini. D sharp is Cancer or yellow. E is yellow or Leo. F is yellow-green, Virgo. F sharp is Libra, green. Scorpio, green-blue, G. G sharp, Sagittarius, blue. A is blue-violet in Capricorn. A sharp is violet in Aquarius. Violet-red is B, or Pisces. And so each one of those equates to your sign and your personality. And if you do like astrological, medical astrology, it'll equate to that. It's just frequencies.
Wow. So it really would behoove somebody that took, like their sun sign, their ascendant, and their moon in particular, and combine those three notes together.
Mm-hmm.
That would actually assist them to become more harmonic in their field.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes. And
cool.
And to even do harmonics and listen to the perfect after ripples of those tones. Barbara Hira did a lot of healing on sounds and the tones and the harmonics of not just the C, for example, but the C and the harmonic pattern that follows. And then she went and took this and she applied it to the different star systems. So she was trying to observe science in terms of, astrophysics in terms of harmonics. And another thing that was really cool was many of the planetary systems that people channel and that we perceive to be helping us at this time, Pleiades and Sirius, Arcturus, for example.
Right.
They're all planets that their tone and the tone of the Earth are very harmonious.
Wow. So which planets are disharmonious?
I don't know if she wrote them. She just wrote the positive ones. I didn't go figure them all.
Fascinating. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I mean, so logical.
Yeah, so we're tied. They need us as much as we need them.
Right.
Because we're each other's balance. We're each other's sweet spot. So we need to be there for each other.
So now, when you get into musical astrology, I think there was something about the best time to treat an organ is when the energy flows the greatest. Can you kind of go into that, and how did they determine that and that kind of thing?
I think there were several ways. That is an ancient philosophy, kind of like feng shui is very old. So you can get that information from stuff thousands of years old. You can also get it they've started to observe some of those things in science, and they're when the system is healthiest, when the operations are most successful, and they're coinciding. So the ancient knowledge is getting rebirthed in science in terms of when is the best time to do a particular operation on a particular organ. They're looking for when it's at its strongest and its optimum energies. And it's just an interesting thing. In ancient times, people saw the energy of time like a spiral, very much like the Fibonacci spiral, like the spiral you see on a seashell. And they found that time and music were almost kind of like parallel spirals. It was just an ancient belief that I don't know, find it fascinating.
Interesting, especially when they're trying to. I just had a conversation with a bunch of people last night because I went out to the conference in Palm Springs, and we were talking about time, and she was a quantum physicist, and she was saying, but there is no time. And she was talking about how, really there's just folds in the space-time matrix, continuum, grid, whatever you want to call it.
Waves. That's what ancient people would say. Yeah.
Waves, exactly. Yeah. Well, now, how about, let's talk about what's going on with the planets right now. And I would love to hear your musical perspective on this. Now, obviously, you're aware that the sun's magnetic field is in a great decline. And I was wondering, how is that affecting some of the things that you're looking at or creating?
Well, actually, I am a musician, and I study the ancient stuff, but I'm not an astrologer, at least not yet. So I would love to add that. But anyway, so I can't get into some of the details. I do know that if we can maybe step back and look at a bigger picture, that at this particular point in time, and I'm going to give you a big picture, and then we'll drill down to the little. So let's say the next, 2012, plus or minus 10 years.
Okay.
At this point in time, the ancient people say that we're in an orbit in which it's 26,000 years, like our solar system is going around the galaxy. And what makes this particular time so potent is that the way that the stars line up, that the energy, the frequencies, the music, the sounds, the waves that come into us are powerful. They jolt, they can uplift. But again, sound isn't always good. Just like on a full moon, it can make people elevate or it can make people get worse. It's the same kind of a thing. So these energies kind of come in and they kind of like maybe separate the wheat from the chaff on how we can deal with these vibrations. And they are to lift the society to a new era epic. In the mystery schools, they would call a time like now, like we're going into the golden age. And since in ancient times, they paralleled the time with the music. They paralleled the harmonic pattern with time. So they would say when you have a golden age, everything is in unison and you get the good energy. And we're moving into that. We're not there yet. So, we've got this time of enlightenment. We've in preparation. We've learned a lot and progressed in some ways. And so, but right before you get to a golden age, back to the parallel of time, if you parallel time with music, the first harmonics are really beautiful. And as you go along time, the harmonics get more and more and more difficult. And towards the end, to listen to the harmonics, they're so close together. They just like make your fingers want to scratch on the blackboard. They're terrible sounding, and they get worse and worse and worse, and then they ease into unity, which is your new golden age. So in the big picture, I think we've had very challenging energy and it would dovetail with ancient thought. And with people like Nostradamus and John the Beloved who are doing prophecy, they're saying this is the time when we're experiencing the really nasty sounds or vibrations. They're not actually ones we hear in our ear. And one of the things I've learned in my study of music is that sound is neither in positive or negative, but you can use it in both ways. And you can take a really nasty sounding sound and use it to break someone's hard mental or emotional body, or to open up their heart. You can use it to take that nasty energy, go into your being, your multidimensional being, and start taking out pain, and not just from this life, but from other lives and perhaps other dimensions. You can start taking your multidimensional being and start to take that crap out. And I think that's what we can do at these times when those type of energies are coming in that are very challenging. It's like what you do with the how we just talked about astrology. If you have two really crappy tones coming in, just try to add other tones and make it sweet. Or come up with a way to stay in balance and harmony, to listen to the new frequency patterns, which will change you, but to do it with grace and ease, because it's just going to uplift you. And it's when you get nervous and tight and judgmental, you get stuck. And that's when the frequencies start to really hurt you. Does that help?
No, that's great. And I have to agree with you. I did, when I had my radical car accident in 2001, that was one of the modalities that I worked with was sound healing, as well as the crystal bowls, which I was going to ask you about that in a minute too. And very effective. I mean, seriously, I remember one session I went into, I just had screaming pain. The pain substantially declined just after one session. So, a lot of people don't give sound healing as much credence as maybe something where they're actually being touched or,
Well, here's something kind of fun, Alexandria. What listeners can do right now is just focus on a pain in their body. And remember, pain's blocked energy, and it's a vibration. And vibrations combine. If you get the same pitch or you get something similar, they combine. Your voice is a combination of every frequency in your body. That's why it gets thin when you speak. So if you have a pain, feel it, and then give it a tone. And don't worry about getting it right. Just use your imagination, or whatever note it is. Just concentrate on the pain and make a sound, and allow the pain to carry on that sound, and see if that just doesn't leave your body. How simple is that?
Yeah, it's an awesome idea. Toning is so powerful, folks. If you haven't done it, and I think a lot of people hesitate to do it because they either A, they don't think they have a good voice, which doesn't even matter,
yeah,
or B, they think they're going to be kind of like a dweeb doing it.
Yeah.
But if you're doing it in your own shower, who cares? Because it is effective. It's really effective.
Yeah. Here's another one, again, really, really old. This is many thousands of years old. Let's say you're having a bad day and somebody just comes in and loads in you. They're yelling at you and they're telling you crappy stuff, and they're taking all their ugly stuff and they're just giving you everything you can get. Again, put it a tone, even if it's in a memory, because your memory energies are still with you. Give it a tone, and then take it up an octave, like and then keep taking it up octaves. Now, eventually, because the energy will follow your intent. So now you're getting to the top of your voice range, and you have to take it up octaves in your imagination. Mm-hmm. So then just keep imagining it getting higher and higher. Well, you're actually going with your imagination into other dimensions that aren't duality, and all the negative stuff will strip. And so in your mind, keep taking this tone and all this anger that was given to you, because the anger is with it, and you take it up and up and up, and it starts to transform. And I usually like to see myself going up so high I can see the earth, and then I imagine I can see our solar system. Then I imagine I'm up with Mother, Father, God, and I'm in this beautiful blue cloud or pink cloud, and then it's so beautiful. And then I jump back into my body, keeping the energy. And the idea of the ancient technique was that if somebody means you harm and sends you verbal abuse, take their energy, use that little process. You can do it in a second if you practice. And then you can take their energy into the most beautiful stuff and bless yourself.
Awesome idea. I love it. I love it. And those are simple little techniques that people can do in their car or when they're at work or grocery store or whatever. I also find that we have been so indoctrinated to believe that imagination does not matter. And in reality,
powerful.
Exactly. And honesty, if you study this matrix that we're in, which is more real, our imagination or what we're living? Because everything that we're living is filled to the brim with lies.
Yeah.
So all that we really truly know is within ourselves, and imagination is the number one key, folks. I mean, it's so important. I'm so glad you brought that up. So what is your feeling about crystal bowls? I mean, there's a lot of talk on those. I've done it myself. They're very effective for me. How is that? Do you use crystal bowls in your music?
I haven't yet, but I would love to. Back to ancient wisdom is that there's different harmonic patterns, which means when you have an after ripple, different amounts of energy can splash into higher or lower harmonics. Remember, A, E, how E sounds higher, just because more energy jumped into a higher pitch.
Mm-hmm.
So every metal, any type of metal, and every type of crystal that you could possibly make a bowl out of creates its own unique harmonic pattern. And I would say this is that the crystals, I believe, each one having its own vibration, that they make up a language of light.
Yeah.
And what better way to heal than to heal with the harmonic healing pattern of the language of light?
Yes, yes. I just got back from Arkansas, and I went to a town called Mount Ida, and this is the crystal capital of the world.
Wow.
A lot of people don't know that. Yeah, it's phenomenal. I mean, you're driving on crystals.
Wow.
I mean, I'm not kidding. Yeah, and you're just like so high when you're walking around because you're in that frequency of the crystal beds.
Wow.
So, yeah, it's gorgeous. But I have listened to your CDs, and I think they're phenomenally effective myself. I've even made some remedies with your CDs, which is very important. I always do my work with music, and it has to be a certain kind of music to reach me and get me to that state of transformation to be able to go where I want to go. So I can't say enough good things about it. So what would you like to, we have maybe about 5 more minutes. What would you like to tell us regarding anything else that we can do to bring the significance and the brilliance of our solar system and how that can assist us in our daily walk today, regarding music and planets? Because
I've listened to my Stardust CD. It's got the sounds of the planets and the elements. It harmonizes you through in the little subtle format, and it balances you with higher energies. When I channel, I've been told that it brings down energy from the level of your spirit. And then, I have some free music on my site that is really a great blessing to listeners. So please go and get it. It's at JillsWingsOfLight.com. And I give away 30 minutes of free music. I give one of the Stardust, one of the Paint Your Soul, which includes the Fibonacci and Solfeggio, which are, if you will, the patterns and the songs and the wave language of Mother Earth is one way of saying it.
Nice.
And then I give also a healing flower remedy. I have oral versions of the flower remedies, and they're a cathartic release. They take out your crap, which you can feel on the way out. So you're not a pansy to listen to the flower remedies.
Well, and I love your book. I mean, Jill, your book, Secret Sounds, Ultimate Healing, is outstanding.
Thank you.
Yeah, make sure everybody you check it out. It's a very good book. It's one of those types of books that you will go to on a consistent basis for reference. It's got everything in it. You've done such an amazing amount of research.
Thank you. In the back part of it even goes in how to modulate your voice to change your energy. Think of your voice as like a pistol or a water pistol, or, it can direct and change things. It's a vibration machine. It's very powerful.
Very true.
Very powerful.
I totally agree with that.
Yeah, thank you. And then also on my site, I have music that has like the frequencies of collagen and vitamins and healthy things. So it's beautiful music with things that literally tighten your skin slowly and make you feel healthy and beautiful beautiful music on many levels. So the idea of beauty, many deep. And then I also have done work on the chakras in that I spent 25 years looking at sound and going all over the globe for different mystery schools. And everybody did chakras different. And in this piece of work, I've combined 17 different mystery schools, and then I sunk it with tones. So like when we're doing the root chakra, we're listening to the pitch, the syllable, the harmonic, the instrument, the rhythm, the bowl, the crystal, the color. All those things are frequencies, the organ associated with it.
Fantastic.
And I offer those as gifts to heal the world.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I would love. Now, where do we find that? That's on your site as well?
Yeah, JillsWingsOfLight.com. Mm-hmm.
Very cool. Well, Jill, thank you so much for what you do. And you truly are affecting people right here, right now, today. You're not just talking about it, you're actually doing it and creating it. And I just want to remind people that's what's important right now, is not just sitting around talking about it, folks, but actually taking action, because the time is now for us to be making a difference on this planet. And it's up to us. We can't look outside ourselves and think we're going to get rescued. Right, Jill?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So please visit her site. And also I can highly recommend, if you get on her mailing list, she has some very educational little snippets that she sends out on a weekly basis or so that are very informative and educational, very easy and quick to read, which I think is smart on your part, Jill. And again, her site is, go ahead, Jill.
JillsWingsOfLight.com.
Perfect.
And I would like to make a donation to Alexandra's site. And so if you order something, if you could just email me at Mattson, Mattson, at yahoo.com, so I know.
Cool. Sounds great. And I want to let everybody know that the implant removal process is flying. We are literally transforming, amazingly so. So if you have any questions, just continue to send your emails in to me. Pam and I are busy. We will get back to you, however, and we are making it happen. This is really changing people and really unplugging us from this kind of enslavement that we've been so used to. So I want to thank everybody. I have such an awesome audience, Jill, and I hope.
I've heard that. I'm so excited.
Seriously, I do. They're very enlightened human beings. I thank all of you. I love you all. Stay tuned for next week, and we will see you on the other side. Okay, take care, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Night.